Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and our 32 followers, two of which, Jeff and Leanne, probably listen constantly. And to anyone who still thinks Stacy's mom has got it going on, this is the Bad Religion Podcast. I am Jason. I am one half of this circus. And to the right of me, we have
Jim. How we all doing today?
What's going on, buddy?
Oh, same old, man. We finally just today got the episode from last week posted with our daughters.
Oh yeah, go check it out.
I thought it came out all right. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm out here in this god awful heat that I cannot stand. Thank God next week it's supposed to cool down into the 70s, but also
Really?
get a lot of rain. And I got these big trees in my backyard, and I'm just waiting for one of them to just fall on my house while I'm sleeping.
Why don't you get them trimmed down?
You know how expensive that is?
Yeah,
it's insane. I have a guy coming out Tuesday to give me a quote.
Yeah,
this tree is probably 60 feet tall.
What kind of tree is it?
Huge. I can't. They call it. It's like a huckleberry or huckle, whatever. Oh. It's a huckle something or a berry something. And the guys who trimmed it last year, they say it's the number one tree that just falls.
Oh, nice.
And so I got 3 of them that could fall straight on my house. Hackberry. It's called a hackberry. Hackberry tree. That's what it is.
Hackberry.
It's ginormous, dude, but it offers so much shade. But it's huge.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if I cut it down, it's going to cost me like $3,000 just to cut it down. And I mean, I just ain't got that money to throw on a tree.
Would it help if you just pruned it all the way back?
Yeah, that's what basically what we're going to do. Take off all the heavy stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the branches alone, some of them are just like that, just for a branch. They're huge.
Yeah.
And the year before when we had the freeze, so what happens around here when it freezes, and if you go outside and it's probably like, I don't know, 10 degrees and it's just been frozen for days, you can just hear branches just cracking and just falling to the ground all around you.
Yeah.
Like you can literally walk outside and just hear it everywhere.
Yeah.
And you drive down the roads and it's just trees everywhere, dude. It's wild. Because they get ice on them and they just get heavy.
Yeah.
And then they just fall.
And it's like that for days and days and days at a time, right? So it's sitting there with that pressure on it.
Yes. Yes.
So you saw our boy John Underhill. He made it to Venice.
Yeah, I saw that. His mom was there.
His mom was there. The dude with the BMX was there too. That was kind of cool. They were all waiting for him. That was it. Yeah,
it's pretty wild. 3,500 miles on a skateboard is pretty wild.
All that time on the highways. Oof.
Now I wonder what he's going to do now. What's the plan once you get there? He had 3 months to think about it, right?
Hopefully his mom brought him a plane ticket to go home.
I don't think he's going to go home. I think he's going to stay.
I'd want to go home. I'd want to go home for a bit, I think. Even if you decide, I mean, you've been on the road for all that time. Just to sleep in your own bed would be pretty awesome right about now, I think.
Yeah, I don't know his living situation there, what he got going on there, but, I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll just stay. He'll become a celebrity.
Yeah, Venice Beach, man. He looks like he could be Venice Beach people, tattoos and whatnot.
Yeah, Venice Beach is not that's where the pier's at, right? No.
She's funny. I'm from LA, but we spent most of our time at the beach in Orange County, to be honest. I think
Santa Monica.
I think Santa Monica's the pier, but they're right next to each other. I think Venice is just south of Santa Monica.
Santa Monica Pier is a shit show. It is a shit show. Like, we went there. I've been there a couple times, but last time we took our kids there, and they wanted to go swimming. And I'm like, no. We walked over to the water. There's, like, diapers floating in there, needles, bottles. I'm like, oh, my God. And then the people at the pier, it was a shit show, dude. It's not the best place. So
it goes through cycles throughout the years, man. There have been times when it's been an absolute dive. There's been times when it's been super cool, but it was never my stomping ground when I lived up in LA. We would go to Huntington Beach because it was just closer. You know, we would have to get to Santa Monica from where we lived. We were twice the distance from downtown Los Angeles east as Santa Monica is west, and so we'd have to go all the way to downtown LA, then through downtown LA, and then the rest of that distance and back. And that would probably be, I mean, even in the 1980s, that'd be an hour 45-minute drive just because the traffic probably. So we would go to Huntington Beach. And we, even when we were teenagers and stuff like that, that was always our place. You know, we called the hills that separated San Gabriel Valley where I lived, and I guess that would be northwest Orange County. We call that the Orange Curtain because you didn't want to get pulled over anywhere between those hills and the beach. The sheriffs and the Orange County police, they were horrible to us. But still, nice beach.
Go ahead.
I said it's a nice beach. It was clean, you know.
How's downtown San Diego? I heard a rumor.
You know, to be honest,
a few years, but
I'd have to ask Christine. She works down there, but we haven't gone out down there in a few months. And I think the last time we did it was Little Italy, so not exactly.
Right, yeah, it's a little different. I heard my buddy just came back from there. He said it's so filthy and dirty, like bad. Like he's like, I don't ever remember it looking the way it looks now.
The last time that we stayed down there, Christine and I, it was a couple of years now. It was probably even possibly before COVID or maybe right before COVID, but it was already getting a little roguish. You know, the unhoused population was growing. There were encampments, and I don't know, like at a certain point, like the psyche of downtown homeless people started to shift and became much more out and much more aggressive. And that could just be people having been homeless for a longer period of time, or more people with mental illness entering into the homeless population. But whatever it was, I remember going down there and thinking that, you know, there'd always been homelessness in any urban area. You're going to find homelessness. But I remember thinking that it seemed a little bit more intense. You know what I'm saying? A lot more yelling. Like we were at a holiday. You know, in downtown, there's that circular Holiday Inn. It's no longer a Holiday Inn. It's something else now. But we stayed there, and it overlooked like this street that separated the Five from, I guess, the parking lot for the Holiday Inn. And that whole street was an encampment. And I swear to God, it was Lord of the Flies, man. Some dude was walking around pulling people out of their tents and throwing them and then going through all their shit. And then like three guys ganged up on him and were throwing rocks. I'm like, do we call the police? Will they come? You know, it was rough. So I guess I'm confirming what you heard.
Well, I stayed down there during COVID. I stayed down there during COVID, and it was with my kids. We stayed at I won something at my work where I got to stay at the U.S. Grant Hotel.
Oh yeah. I've stayed there before
because they own it. And we decided, this is right before we moved. And I'm like, let's just take the kids down there. We'll go hang out, have some dinner, go get some ice cream, yada, 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 in this nice room. Whew. Man, it was outside dining, obviously, at that time, COVID, and the streets were blocked off. The streets were blocked off back then down there where no one could drive down the street because they had all the open dining.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because they brought totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, the amount of unhoused down there, just naked, freaking bashing 40s on the ground, pissing everywhere, people smoking meth or drugs, whatever they're doing, with cops driving by. What's crazy to me, why don't they do anything about that? Like, what is it? I just don't understand how they could just drive past it, but they'll pull me over and give me a ticket, but they can't. There's a dude smoking meth or shooting up heroin, and they just let him.
Well,
nothing we can do.
You'll show up in court and pay your fine, and so that pays for their salary.
Okay, but still, you just allow. I mean, kids are walking by these people, and it's. I don't know. I'm assuming there's another factor to it that I obviously don't know. But
let me tell you something that was different. This is why, to me, it was such a shocking thing to see. because I've got a parallel experience 5, maybe 7 years earlier, because my oldest daughter Bella was singing in the San Diego Children's Choir. So that must have been I think she did that maybe when she was 10, 11, 12. Maybe not even 12, maybe 10, 11. So that would have been 08, maybe 07, maybe 09, somewhere in there, right? And so every year they would sing from the orchestra pit, they would sing the Nutcracker at the San Diego Philharmonic. And so we would take them there, walk them up to the back entrance, and then go out and wait in our car, right? And so I walked her in there because it was middle of the day, right? Maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Walked her in there, and I'm walking back. As I'm walking back, I see people are starting to put their encampments out. People are they're putting out tents like underneath the buildings, like and they're in groups, and you could tell that these groups know each other. And what was striking to me about that, Jason, was that these some of these were families. They didn't look like it was a bunch of people on drugs. That looked like it. I'll tell you when. Now that I'm talking about it, I know exactly when it was. It would have been in '09, and it would have been right in the wake of the housing crisis. All these people had lost their homes. Some people had lost their jobs, and suddenly, because so many people live from paycheck to paycheck, suddenly these people were, homeless. Where they weren't maybe a few months before, and so they were living in these little teeny communities, trading books, doing homework. It was the most bizarre thing in the world. And I was trying to think to myself, what am I going to tell Bella when I go and get her and walk her back? Because when I walked her back, it was full setup. The camp was open, and it wasn't like it wasn't a huge camp. It was just, a few dozen tents and setups along the buildings between the Opera House and where we were parked. And so, I just waited for Bella to ask me, and she kind of got it right away. The only thing she said was, there anything we could do for these people? Which I thought was, I'm like, honey, I don't know. I don't think right now there is, but, we could, just always be kind to them is all. But anyway, that is not the flavor of downtown right now. And it hasn't been for at least 5 years. So there's your question. I'm sorry. It took me a while to get my head around it. And then once I did, I used way too many words, but
when we first moved to Austin, when we first came out to visit before we moved, what almost kept the homeless population here was so high. Homeless people were everywhere. So you drive down to 35 is the main highway that goes through into Austin, comes all the way up to North Austin, South Austin. And just in the mediums, like on the side of the highway, in between the other side of the highway, there was encampments. They had full on electricity. They'd have like a garden, and it was just tents on the freeway, bro. And underneath, every overpass was just full of homeless people. It was crazy, and I'm like, I don't know that I want to move into this. Austin as a city in general is freaking awesome. The music scene is absolutely amazing. You can go into any bar at any given time, and you can see a Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean?
I get you saying.
It's crazy. But then what they did is they put in an enforcement, and what they did, they started building, taking old buildings, and I could be wrong on all this, but taking old buildings and making them into like little apartments. And they started moving the homeless out of the streets and into these places. And it's cleaned up a lot. I mean, there still is homeless, obviously. It's a major city. They're everywhere. But you don't see them on the freeway anymore, underneath the overpasses. They're just not there. So either they they moved them all somewhere else, or they did what I said they did. But I'm pretty sure I was listening to the mayor of Austin. I don't think he is now. But he had this whole setup, this whole plan on what they wanted to do with them, and that was on I think that was on JRE a few years ago. And
so just using abandoned buildings, places that were no longer being used, or that were affordable to be used or whatever. Interesting.
Did you hear that?
It's interesting plan. Seems like a little common sense.
Yeah. That's what
Downtown LA has got a ton of empty office buildings at the moment. Ton of them. California has a huge housing crisis. It's
Yes, it does. A lot of places have huge housing crisis, but let's talk about what we're doing today. Today,
yes.
we're gonna have a special guest. Is a old friend of mine of close to 20 years. He has, I guess you could say, it's a good comeback story, right?
I would
There
say
were
so.
there were times in my life that I've known him that I didn't think he would survive to where he is now. Um,
Oh,
he's been in and out of federal prison. He's been in and out of rehab. He's got a pretty crazy, amazing story. It's a good comeback story because now, instead of being in prison, he goes to prison and speaks um,
yeah.
uh, about NA and his life and how it saved him. So today we're going to have on my friend Ryan Mahan, and he's going to tell us his story.
Yep. Can't wait. Interesting guy. He's got a really interesting story. Really interesting story.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun listen. I think everyone will enjoy it. So next time you see us, we'll have Ryan on.
We will indeed. All right.
See you in a minute.
There you go.
Oh, and we're back.
Yep.
So, like I said before, today we have my buddy Ryan. Uh, we basically, the way I wanted to set this up is, like I said before, is just basically I love a great comeback story. You know what I mean? People who are down, out at their, you know, the bottom. You know, they've hit rock bottom, and they had the balls to stand up every single time they hit rock bottom and attempt to get back up. No matter how many times they got hit, no matter how many times they've been down, no matter how many dumb mistakes they made, no matter how many things that they regret, they still didn't let that keep them on the ground. So I think a great example of it is Mr. Mahan here. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Jason. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for
Not a
coming
problem.
on,
Good to have
man.
you here.
I think your story is interesting. Obviously, we know each other very well. We
Right.
we've been through a lot of stuff together. That's neither here nor there. Um, but why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, like how it all began? Like you can start with your childhood and
Yeah, yeah.
move your way forward.
Well, well, obviously, yeah, I can start with my childhood. I'm from Phoenix. I was born in Phoenix, and that was in the early '80s. '82, I was born. So, my parents are both addicts, and they used. I'm an only child, so early memories for me were like my parents weren't ever together. You know what I mean? They were separated when I was born. And so, like, little city area of Phoenix that I was born in was Sunny Slope, and it's known for a lot of drugs. And I mean, still to this day, it's not the best part of town, But like the stuff that I experienced as a young kid, before the age of 7 was, being locked in a room by myself, while my mom was partying, lots of people at the house. Um, a lot of fear, like uncertainty as a kid, is like I think you want to be feel safe and protected as a kid, and that's just stuff I didn't really have. The people in and out of the house, there was violence, our windows getting broke out. People would, come looking for my dad because he sold them bad drugs or something like that. And that was just some of the stuff I experienced. And my grandparents were like my saving grace because my mom would work late night shifts, and then she would send me to my grandparents' house, and that's where I found all that. Routine, meals on time, the safety, stability, the love, attention, and stuff that I wasn't getting from my parents. I found through my grandparents. So, yeah, that happened till I was about 7, and then um, around that time, my mom ended up getting arrested, and she was driving up by Las Vegas through Searchlight, and she ended up getting arrested, and the courts made her go to meetings, you know what I mean, and she decided to try to get clean. And around that time, my grandfather retired, and they bought a house in Lake Havasu, and I moved to Lake Havasu with them, and while my mom was getting her life together. So that's kind of how my youth experience with being exposed to drugs, being exposed to violence, being exposed to things that, I don't have kids. I know you guys have kids. You know what I mean? I don't think you want your kids exposed to that kind of stuff when they're young. Um, but I didn't know it was not normal.
Yeah,
That to me, that was normal.
when you grow up in that environment, that's what normalcy is, right? That's what you see every day. That's
Right.
what you consider to be normal. If and yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's a direct opposite of how I grew up. I have four sisters, two brothers. My parents were married for God near 50 years. I always had a stable home, a roof over my head. I'm not. That's something that is direct opposite of me, and that can lead you into obviously your teenage or adult years. It kind of shapes you and who you are.
That relationship with my mom, and I didn't realize for so long, affected me later on in life in my relationship with women in general. You know what I mean? And the just the dynamic. You know what I mean? Maybe it's going to sound strange, but even with dating relationships, it was always like kind of looking for that mother figure, kind of.
No,
You know what I mean? It came with a lot of codependency. I need your validation in order for me to love myself because it was something that I never received. And so that was stuff that I learned about through the process. Later on in life when I got clean and got into recovery and stuff like that, did some work on myself, and you learn some of that stuff. Yeah. So
so when did you come to Havasu? When was that?
so it was back and forth. I first went to Havasu in '89 when my mom got clean and I went to live with my grandparents. I lived in Lake Havasu second, third, fourth grade, and I met a lot of people there. And then after my mom had about 3 years clean, she wanted me to come back to Phoenix with her. And so I moved back to Phoenix, and that was fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And that's kind of like where things kind of took off for me. I didn't want to come back to Phoenix with my mom. I really didn't have a good relationship with her. Like I said, my grandparents were the ones who really took care of me, and so like I dreaded going back to Phoenix with my mom. But as a result, I came back. I got introduced to gangs in like seventh grade, and it was that we were talking earlier about being half white, half Mexican. It was that thing where I looked Hispanic, I looked Mexican, and I'd go to school. And kids would be like, "Hey, who are you going to kick it with? What's it going to be?" You get introduced to that peer pressure at an early age, and really being an only child and stuff, I kind of wanted to fit in. I wanted to feel accepted. um, so came the gangs, and I think I got jumped into a gang in seventh grade. We started using drugs back then, and uh, I think the first time I got high was like huffing paint or aerosol. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and it was not something that I really wanted to do, but it was something that I did because I didn't want to feel rejection. I wanted to fit in. You know what I mean? And so peer pressure, stuff like that, doing things that went against my conscience uh, for acceptance. And so I did that, and then I got into some trouble in eighth grade. I got jumped by a gang, and there was all this stuff going on. It was kind of crazy being so young, experiencing some of that stuff. But like, my mom found out, and she got really scared, and she sent me back to live with my grandparents, and that was ninth grade. So like 95, 96 time, I moved back to Lake Havasu, and it was just like a culture shock because you know what Havasu's like. Um,
Yeah.
there wasn't any of that going on. You know what I mean? And I had to be, and I was like a chameleon, man. Like I needed to fit in, I needed to blend in, and and of course, what the opportunity that was provided for me was through the drugs. You know what I mean? The partying, um, that was where I found my niche, I guess. And unfortunately, my grandparents were a lot of the victim of um, my using and stuff because at that age I didn't have any source of income or anything like that. And my disease of addiction, I call it a disease of addiction. I started using, and it really took off. Like the progression went from like marijuana to cocaine, and then methamphetamine, and it really took off pretty bad at a young age. And it's funny because it was almost like my using was a lot worse when I was young because my grandparents paid for it all.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I had like unlimited resources,
Yeah.
and then I put them through so much, and a lot of regret, because when they died, they never got to see me get clean. They never got to see me get my life together. They got to see me down and out, and putting them through pain and stuff like that. But um, and then later on in my addiction, uh, the good times were that was like the good times at that age. That's when it was fun, even though I was pretty bad. Uh, pretty bad is an understatement. Like, um, yeah, pretty bad was an understatement. But like, that those were the good times. Uh, Later on, though, I really struggled. I ended up getting arrested a lot. I ended up getting run-ins with the law. I went to prison in 2004 for the first time, and I wasn't successful at using. It's like my grandparents, took care of me, and then once they were gone, I was like lost, and in and out of jail, in and out of prison, and that cycle repeated itself for many years. And so that's when it wasn't fun anymore. But I was kind of stuck in that cycle. And I really didn't know any other way of life. I didn't have this vision. I dropped out of school in 10th grade. You know, uh, it interfered with my getting high. That's the reality of it. Like, um, I don't think I see this generation of kids today, and I often wonder. I'm like, do they party like I partied? You know what I mean? Because life was like I was like at another
Let
level.
me tell you something.
There was no evidence, bro. They didn't see what we were doing. We didn't have cameras on us all the time, so
I don't think
no pictures,
anyone parties
no
like
proof.
you used to.
Uh, that's true. But dude, Gen X, they don't have the evidence, man. They
Right.
can't pin anything on us in that way. We see everything they do from the time that they're born until the time they leave our house.
It's crazy. I felt like I had like no parental supervision. Like I
Yeah.
didn't really. My grandparents were too old to take care of me. And the people and I've shared about this in one of my shares before, that I share my story sometimes, and it was like the stuff that I looked up to were the older guys that I was partying with, or like rap music at the time. These were like my influences and what I based my morals and good, and you know what I mean? It was completely out of whack,
Yeah.
and it didn't serve me well.
Yeah.
So,
I also think Lake Havasu City is a people don't know the underbelly of Lake Havasu City and the crazy weirdness and the darkness that is in that city, because it's there. It is
yeah.
definitely there. I guess it kind of reminds me of, it's like a bigger city, but it reminds me of like the drug use and it reminds me of like kind of like a podunk kind of like hillbilly town back in, there's a so much drug use. I
Mm,
don't know about now.
yeah.
I haven't lived there forever, but back in the
Yeah.
early 2000s, it was crazy. Uh,
I mean, I won't lie. I had some really good
oh,
times. I mean, some of those times were great,
yeah.
but yeah.
So you went to prison. What what was your breaking point? What got you to the point where you're like, fuck this, I need to do something. This is not working for me. I need to change my life.
Well, like I said, I went to prison for the first time in '04, and that was like an in and out. Like I get like a year. I had some bad time. I went to the prison. I hit the yard, and it was that peer pressure thing again. Who you gonna run with? The whites, the Mexicans, and so there's that whole thing again. And then I got out, and it wasn't like a deterrent. Instead of like me changing course, it was like a badge of honor I wore. I thought I was cool because I'd been to prison or something. And I continued to use, but like I said, my life was in shambles. It wasn't good. Like I struggled. You and I have known each other for years, and you've seen me throughout this process, in and out of relationships with women that were just horrible. You know what I mean? Uh, and then I went to prison again in 2009. And the strange thing is like that time I went to prison for a crime I didn't commit. Like literally, I got accused of something. Um, and I took it to trial and lost. You know what I mean? The jury came back, and
Oh,
it's hard when you got priors and stuff like that, you know. And the funny thing is, I've got my rights restored and stuff set aside today, but that was that one that I couldn't get off my record because it's a dangerous crime. They say there was a gun involved, you know. So the one that I didn't do is the one I can't get off my record. You know,
isn't it
it's crazy.
ironic?
And then and then finally, in 2013, I really was I was like 31 years old, and I was like uh at bottom, you know what I mean? Like I got out of prison in 2011, and here I am in 2013, and I'm like on the streets, man. Like in Phoenix, there's this area town, it's 27th Avenue, and it's so funny because my mom, the last house I got high at was the same street, same neighbor, like that my mom used at when she, you know what I mean? It was just like, it was crazy, and 27th Avenue and Northern, between Northern and Indian School. And I was like homeless, man. And my mom had a restraining order on me. I had like clothes in a drainage ditch I would change. Like I was experiencing like homelessness. Um, and I could have easily moved back home, but I didn't want to quit using. You know what I mean? Getting high was more important to me than and I would tell, and I was chasing this girl around who I thought I wanted to marry, and and just the insanity. And I ended up getting arrested for a burglary in 2013, and it was the first time like it was like something clicked because I was 31 and I was going back to prison for the third time, and it dawned on me for the first time that I have a drug problem. Like every time I get high, like this is what happens. I don't know why it took so long to
Hey,
put the two together.
sometimes it takes
You know, and
longer.
whatever. I guess I had to experience what I had to experience, and some of the meetings and stuff I do, it's talked about as the gift of desperation. And I guess I was given that gift of desperation because I was so afraid of spending the rest of my life in prison, because I didn't know how to stay free on my own. I didn't know how to uh since a young age I had felonies. I couldn't get an apartment, I couldn't get a good job. I struggled, and it was like I never envisioned the life that's possible, or the life that I have today. And so I was really like, I felt hopeless, And I remember sitting in the county jail, like by myself. It's going to sound funny, but I was like in tears to myself, just like broken, thinking, what am I going to do? And I guess that's when I became willing, and I liked getting high and everything like that. But it came a point where staying out of prison was more important to me, and I guess I just became open minded to something else, and when I went to prison this last time, I met a guy in there, who was a white guy, and in Arizona prisons it's really racially segregated and stuff. But we were doing meetings in prison, and he had this old prison number, and he had like his white guy tattoos all over him, but he was like sharing, like he was in recovery, and he was like telling me how he's going to stay out of prison and stay clean and do this and that. And he gave me a little bit of hope that I never had before, that there was something different, because I could relate to him. Like my mom got clean in '89, and she could have never helped me get clean. I would have never listened to her. It had to be this guy in prison that uh, he just gave me some hope, and I started taking the suggestions that he given me, and I started working a 12-step program, and really like applying myself when I was in prison, like working steps, doing that stuff. It worked for me. I lost my faith in God, really, because I used to pray about that time I was going to prison about, I had all these biblical ideas of God and stuff like that there's no way I can go to prison for a crime I didn't commit, and then when the jury came back guilty, I was like, oh, I don't want no more to do with that God. You know what I mean? But that was my experience, and it's taken a long time for me to reestablish a relationship with a God of my understanding that works for me today. But yeah, I just started taking suggestions and doing stuff, working a program, and slowly my life got better, And it's funny because ever since I quit getting high, I've never had to go to prison again. I just celebrated 12 years clean on May 21st. And so it's been 12 years, and so much has happened in this last 12 years that I never pictured for myself. The life I have today. That's why I take meetings into prisons now. I go into the prisons here in Arizona, and I take meetings in there, and I just hope to give them a little bit of hope, like I was given, because like when I was at that point in my life, I couldn't even picture the life I have today. So if I can tell them my name's Ryan, my prison number 184509, and these are the yards I was at, and this is what my life's like today, maybe they will get a little glimpse of a better life is possible. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I do today. You know what I mean? And I have a good life today. So
Well, first of
Hey
all,
Ryan,
oh, go ahead.
you mind if I jump a question in here real quick,
Yeah,
Jason?
go for it.
I want to know how you got your business started, how you got into that. That seems like it's a pretty
oh
remarkable story, and it's
yeah, I got out of prison, and I was sharing with somebody like when I was getting out of prison, I like my this is where my mind was at back in 2000. I got out at the end of 2015, almost 2016, and I was like, if I can just make $11 an hour, everything will be okay. That's it. Like that's what like where my mind was at. I just $11 an hour, and I can everything will work out. And I got out, and I pulled to a halfway house, and I was still going to meetings, and staying away from the old people, staying away from 27th Avenue, and I the meetings I was going to, um, like I said, one thing I had an advantage because my mom came into recovery back in '89, so I knew some people in recovery from when I was a kid, and it kind of helped me when I was ready. And I just asked this guy, he owned a business doing garage doors, and I asked him if he would give me a chance, and he did. And literally, like, other than getting into recovery, um, that changed my life, because up until that point, I had never been able to like provide for myself. I, have a hook up with these women, move in with them. I had no self esteem in not being able to provide and take care of myself. And when I started making some money, you know what I mean, like able to pay my own rent, pay my bills, buy a car, uh, start experimenting with traveling and stuff like that, and not have to like rely on someone else. It was a game changer. And so I worked with him for like 7, almost 8 years, and I made good money with him. I had some struggles. I, I guess maybe I still have a problem with authority. I don't know. Like I don't, there's there's a part of me that I didn't like someone else making my schedule. Like I had some animals get sick and pass away, and like having to ask for time off to be there, or like when my grandmother, she passed away a couple years ago, and I had just gone into business for myself, and just the freedom I had to be able to make my own schedule and spend time with her and be there for her. Like, you can't put a price on that. I took a big pay cut when I went in. Well, when I first left that company, I worked 2 jobs. I was doing valet at a resort from like 2 in the afternoon to 10 at night, and I would do the garage doors from like 7 to like 1 in the afternoon. And then slowly things started to progress. You know what I mean? I'm by no means some huge company. I'm self-employed. I own my own business. I can subcontract guys, but I have freedom. I get to travel. You know what I mean? Things are really good for me, and I have the potential to grow. My problem is I like to travel so much. If I would like take a year off, or like if I would just like buckle down for like a year or two, I know the possibilities are endless. When I'm ready to do that, it's there.
This,
So
this
yeah,
this guy's such a Steelers fan that he's going to Ireland to see the Steelers
yeah,
play.
that's dope.
Where?
yeah. I
That's
bought
dope.
I bought my ticket. I have a business credit card, so I collect all these like Sky Miles points, and then
Smart.
I got my flight there, and then I booked the Airbnb, and then just last week I got a pregame hospitality and game ticket package to the Vikings Steelers game, and so I'm excited, man. I usually go to Pittsburgh once a year to catch a game,
Yeah,
but this was like, all right.
that's
Pretty
crazy.
dope. I just want to say, number one, I'm extremely proud of you. Like you said, we've known each other for close to 20 years. Um, I
Probably longer. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would have thought you, and I hate to say this, would have been either prison or dead right now.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that you'd be where you're at, but you've worked hard, and hopefully, I mean, someone will listen to this that can see that there is hope. You know what I mean? And you do a
Yeah.
lot of great for the NA community, the recovery community. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do with that before we we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of service. You know what I mean? I do a lot of meetings. I do a lot of H&I stuff, which is like taking meetings into prisons and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You know, in recovery, we talk about some basic things, is like having a home group where somewhere a meeting I go to every week where I know everybody, and doing step work, being of service. You know what I mean? And sponsorship, and that's like working steps with somebody. And so I do that. I do those things. You know what I mean? And I'm told that if you do those 5 things, you give yourself the best chance of success. You know, and for me, like right now, like I have a temporary crown on my tooth, and like I'm popping ibuprofen like every 8 hours, and like my mind tells me, man, you could probably get something stronger. You know what I mean? But like the reality is, like I don't want to. Like the desire, I'm so grateful because the desire to get high has been lifted from me. It doesn't seem like a good idea anymore. It doesn't seem like it's fun anymore. It doesn't sit like it did before when I had nothing else, and now I have so much to lose. You know, I know what's riding, and you know, I have a home. I have a partner I've been with for 8 years. We travel. She's in Costa Rica right now. I'm watching the dogs. You know, and you know, I have a good life. You know, I wouldn't want to throw it away for one relapse. You know, and so you know, I just stay plugged in with doing that.
Well, I think you're doing an amazing job at it. I think I am jealous at the amount of travel you get to do.
No doubt, man.
Having no kids. This guy's riding camels in Egypt.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't get off of 27th Avenue, and then I'm riding a camel around the pyramid.
yeah,
That's a nutty story, bro. Listen, I want to say something real quick because when I was watching your story or listening to your story the first time, I saw all these parallels with my own life. Right, I had you know, my mom is a Mexican lady, my dad's a white guy. They were divorced before I was ever had any memory, so they were always separated, and just one thing after another, man. I struggled with drug abuse for a period of time, probably the same flavor of drugs that you're talking about, and just really accelerated. And I've got all these little moments that I can reflect, but I want to say that the place that you come from to get to where you are, even for me, like kind of knowing a little bit about what that might be like, it's such a deep starting point that you came from, bro. You know, like, and most of the stuff that you talk about that happened to you before you know, moved to your grandparents the first time, none of that shit's your fault. You
Yeah.
know, nothing at all that you could have done to have changed that. And that those are such formative years. It became part of who you know you were before you really had a choice in the matter. And so what I'm saying is your achievement is you're the outlier, man. I think most people that I've known of that have had a starting point like yours would not have reached the pinnacle that you've reached. You walked a line that most people were not able to negotiate. And what I would say is, I know you're sad that your grandparents were not able to live to see this, but you honor their memory. You really do,
Yeah.
because
That's part of the
you honor
mental
the sacrifice.
process for me
Yeah,
is the like a living amends to them. You know what I mean? I try to live a way that they would be proud of today. You
yeah.
know what I mean? And you can't really change the past, but like some sort of spiritual level, I can find comfort in knowing that they'd be happy with the life I'm living today. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you honor them, bro. So, cheers to you, my friend. Cheers to you. Thanks
Thank-
for coming
Appreciate
on and
that.
talking to us about this, man. It really it's a great story, and I'm really happy for you. Very congratulations that you.
Hey, just so you know, I forget how many followers you said you had.
We got a whole
32.
32, bro.
Oh, it's
Ooh,
going up because I
32.
put on one. I put on one last week for my girlfriend, and we were logged in on her account on YouTube, and I hit follow. I'm like, you guys got one more,
Yeah.
so you know what I mean?
Ooh.
Yeah,
Hey, pretty soon I'm going to be able to quit my job.
Yeah, I'm already starting to clean out my desk.
All right, brother. Hey, man, we appreciate you and thank you for your time. And if you want to send us your, I'd like to throw your business up in the comments. Maybe someone will hit
yeah.
you.
Lucky Boy Garage Door at or luckyboygaragedoor.com
Yes, hit them up,
Awesome, brother.
and we'll get
website.
that up there. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you.
Thanks,
It was
guys.
good meeting you, Ryan. Thanks for
You
coming
too,
on and
man.
talking with us, bro.
Best wishes with your podcast. I'm sure it's going to be successful.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, man.
And we are back. That was a great interview. Again, I want to thank Ryan for being on,
Yep, great
sharing
story.
his story. He has really came back from a lot, and there is a lot in there. I mean, we are only condensed to 30 minutes.
Yeah,
We probably could have gone on for another hour just on his story, uh,
yeah.
because there's a lot of things in there. You'd be like, holy crap, I can't believe that happened. Holy crap, he did that.
I just
And
like what I was telling him, dude. It's an unlikely story. It really is. You're not going to find too many people. Most people that have survival stories had some sort of that I've heard. Okay, had some sort of support system that helped them to get up out of it. And dude, Ryan just kind of did it himself, man. That's pretty sturdy shit right there, bro.
yeah, he did a good job in getting himself to where he needs to be. That's a lot of hard work he had to
Yep.
put in mentally. A lot of hard
Yeah.
work. I just want to talk a little bit about what we got coming up.
Cool.
We're gonna have some more guests with some some things that we are interested in that I think that you guys would be interested in too. Um, and just some unlikely cool stories. We're gonna do some parenting stuff with some people on how they parent versus how we parent and whatnot. We're gonna do some food and beer pairing. I hate wine, so ain't gonna get no wine out
I'll
of
drink
me.
the wine.
I tried
I'll
to.
drink the wine.
My wife had a glass of wine at dinner the other night, and I'm like, let me take a sip of that. Maybe I'm all wrong. Took a sip of it, and I'm like, ew. You can keep that. It's so stringent and so just like, it makes me feel like I have a film in my mouth. It's just like not good. And
My
I'm like,
problem is,
you're paying $12 for a glass of that? Like, how is that?
oh,
That's not good. Sorry,
well,
wine people. I'm not that bougie. I'll take a good hazy IPA, a good
yeah.
imperial milk stout, a good pastry stout, a Hefeweizen. I love a good Hef with the banana esters. Just so good. I mean, it's not good for my belly, so I've been trying to cut down on drinking all those
Well,
calories, but I'm gonna do it for you.
it's bad for my belly too because my belly starts to bubble up as soon as
Uh,
I start to.
Bubble guts.
Dude, it's so bad. Like I used to have such a great relationship with beer, and it breaks my heart. But we can only see each other in limited occasions, and just a couple sips. That's how it is. I
Yeah,
can drink. I can drink bourbon, that kind of stuff. It's just and I can drink Guinness, which is kind of a different creature, but it
Guinness is
just
good.
doesn't. It just like especially an IPA. For whatever reason, IPAs kill me now, and they were my favorite for the longest time.
I am a beer snob. I will admit it.
Yeah.
I just don't like crap beer. I mean, I'll pay $25 for 4 beers if it's a
Yeah.
good beer. I'm not. No offense to Budweiser, the king of beers, or Coors. I do like
We
a
drank
good
enough of that. We drank enough in our day.
I do like a good Miller High Life, or I like a good um oh, what am I thinking? A good what's that Mexican beer? I can't think right now.
Modelo?
Yes, Modelo.
Yeah, Modelo's
The
good. I like
Modelo
the Negro
Negro
Modelo. I like
is
it
so
dark one.
good, but for the most part, I stick with a good, nice, juicy, hazy IPA, or like I said, a pastry stout, or oh man, there's a lot of great beers out there that
Uh,
are better than wine.
so,
Unless someone can prove me wrong. If anyone wants to give me a suggestion on a wine that I would like, I'm just not a
dude,
big fan.
are you ready to drop $60 on it? Yeah, on a bottle of wine?
I mean, I dropped 30 on a 4 pack of
Okay.
beer. So I mean, what I mean,
Bring,
but
bring the wine.
I don't like red wine. I'm just
Yeah.
not a
Oh, okay.
fan.
So
It's
a white
too
wine.
it's too stringent. It's too ugh. It's not good. But
Okay.
anyways, yes, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do some beer and food pairings, and if there's anything else anyone can suggest, throw it our way. We're a blank canvas right now.
Yeah. We
Trying
might
to
do
be
some
creative.
shorts. We might work in some shorts also, like with our daughters and whatnot. If that works out. If it's too corny, we won't put them up.
Yeah, you will. I like being corny sometimes.
There's a place for it for sure,
I like
especially
being corny. It
as girl
depends on
dad.
the
Corny is
corniness.
like part of like par for the course.
It depends on like when I say like I what did I say today? I said I said, sheesh, to my daughter. She's like, oh my God, you're too old to be saying that. And then my 8-year-old goes, Dad, it's not 2020 anymore. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. What did you know about 2020? You were 4. Anyways, yeah, I think that's it for today.
Yep. Yep.
We got
Good
a lot
talk,
of
man.
stuff going on in California. We're gonna have to get in the now and see what's going on. I know none of it's good. Well, at least half of it isn't. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yep.
think we should find out what's going on, and maybe next show we'll do a little segment on that. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you made it this far, which I'm
Yep.
going to say 99.9% of you did not, but if you did,
Mr. and Mrs. Stamen.
I appreciate you, and I love you. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Peace. Take it easy, Jay. Have a good week.
Brother.